Ed, I have a really dumb question that I've been waiting all day to ask you. All of this technology, all of this new stuff for this mission, this is still how we're returning from space? Is there really just no better way to do this? Tried and true, it works, we're sticking with it?
Yeah, just good old-fashioned rocket science, right? The flat bottom capsule. It's a really good point. Like, I think to a lot of people, the millions and millions of people watching around the world yesterday evening, the thing that all of us in industry, and I did the splashdown show with Bloomberg's Lauren Grush, who leads our space coverage at Bloomberg, but also has this like deep family connection to NASA and history of NASA, and then Laurie Leshin, who used to lead NASA's propulsion lab. So we did this show, and the thing that both of them are super clear on is that you're trying to enter Earth's atmosphere at 400,000 feet altitude, traveling at 25,000 miles per hour. It just seems insane, but just hitting a wall of air on that flat bottom and the heat shield and the need for the heat shield to hold up, that is the best way to do it at this moment in time.
I'm glad you mentioned the heat shield, because there were a lot of questions going into this re-entry, Ed, yesterday about the durability of the heat shield after what happened with Artemis 1 a couple of years ago. At this point, do we have any close-up images of how the heat shield withstood this sort of different re-entry that was for a less of a period of time, but still really challenged the materials?
So the answer, frankly, is no. The recovery has taken place, and what happens is that the Orion spacecraft gets taken actually to Kennedy Space Center, and then all of that analysis done with particular focus on the heat shield. There is going to have been some breakup, some material, removal from the heat shield.
That's what it's designed to do.
That's what it's designed to do. The issue was in Artemis 1, which was an uncrewed mission, that it broke up in ways that they didn't expect. The material itself behaved in ways that they didn't expect. But actually the fix for this, I mean, it's academic now, right? Because the 4 astronauts are safe. They're safe, guys. They made it, and successful end-to-end mission. But how they ensured that was to actually change the angle that the Orion spacecraft integrity entered Earth's atmosphere, the re-entry phase, rather than actually make any material changes or design changes to the shield itself.
You are such a space nerd. Why did you know that?
Well, we talked to Ed a lot. Yeah, come on. Ed, one thing that I noticed yesterday, for all the success that this mission had, there was this kind of hiccup in terms of communication when the Orion capsule splashed down yesterday. What happened? They were like, somebody asked, "Are you sure you're pressing the right button?" Essentially, press the PTT, the push to talk button.
It was almost like it was going too smoothly. They needed a moment of drama to make us all panic. Yeah.
I mean, so I guess in a sequence that's 13 minutes, it's about 13 minutes from the re-entry interface, the moment that the capsule kind of orients back into Earth's atmosphere and splashdown. Of all of the things that can happen post splashdown, the talkback being a sort of a comical, light-hearted moment, it's not really a big deal. Because bear in mind that at that 400,000 feet altitude and at speed 25,000 miles, plasma encases the capsule, right? From sheer heat, 3,000 degrees Celsius, 5,000 Fahrenheit. So for 6 minutes, there's no way for the crew, the astronauts, to speak to Houston, and there's no way for Houston to speak to them. That's really scary. So NASA, I think in the presser, in the debrief, it came up, but I think that was just giddiness and human euphoria, having pulled off quite a feat of space travel.
So we've talked before about the commercial aspect of this and the growth of the commercial space industry and what that means for NASA and these programs. And there's a story that just hit the terminal this morning talking about Boeing's moon rocket faces an uncertain future under Trump, and the fact that despite this success, the Trump administration is looking to competitors for a possible replacement. What does that mean for you, and how could this impact future missions?
Yeah, so there are future missions, and what NASA has said officially is that they are committed to SLS, Space Launch System, the rockety bit developed by Boeing, until at least Artemis 5. However, Lauren Grush and I broke a story a few weeks ago that how can I put it? It ruffled some feathers because NASA hadn't yet communicated how they wanted to take the project forward to the parties involved. And what we reported was there are two proposals on the table, one from SpaceX and one from Blue Origin, that would change the mechanism for humans landing on the moon, essentially.
Okay.
And in one of the mechanisms, Orion, the spacecraft, would dock with Starship, SpaceX's rocket, in low Earth orbit. And then I'm using my hands. I hope that's okay for Bloomberg This Weekend. But like Orion would merge with Starship nose to nose, and Starship would push it to the moon. And then there are various proposals on the table to land down on the moon's surface. But that cuts out SLS. You know, even if SLS is the vehicle that would take Orion to low Earth orbit. But also Starship's like massively unproven, right? It's never had done a human space flight. They basically have 2 years, less than 2 years, to prove this thing can work without blowing up. So there's a lot there. But yeah, you know, this was a huge success, end-to-end human deep space mission, but it's had problems. It's way over budget and it's way behind on its timeline. And it's important to restate that now that everyone's safe.
So Ed, just about 40 seconds left on this. Next steps on building that base on the moon and then ultimately getting to Mars, at least for NASA and Jared Isaacman, what does it mean?
Yeah, there's two tracks in parallel. On an ongoing basis, many more missions to the moon, which is why SpaceX might come in, because they can launch more regularly at lower cost, to put robots and hardware on the moon. No humans, but just flood the moon's surface to start building up this base. 2028, that's the earliest that NASA thinks it will get humans to land on the moon. And so there's lots of steps. Artemis 3 as a mission is a demonstration of how those different technology providers would interact with each other in orbit, some of what I just described.
Okay.
So there is a timeline over the next 2 years where we'll see many more launches with the target of having NASA astronauts, humans back on the moon's surface 2028.